Hello and welcome to A Baker's Passion. I'm Ray Madursky, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to put together one of what is absolutely my favorite desserts, and it's a Swiss chocolate roll. So what we will do, we'll start to begin to experiment with making some of the different egg foam cakes. Egg foam cakes are cakes that depend on the mounting of the egg component for the leavening agent. There's no baking powder or anything like that in these cakes. This particular cake will be a cake where we separate the egg whites from the egg yolks, and we mount each separately, and then we fold everything together. We're going to bake it in a sheet pan, a jelly roll pan, and then we're going to roll it up and then fill it with a chocolate whipped cream, and then we're going to make a ganache. But what we'll do to the ganache to finish the dessert is lightly whip it. Now the trick with whipping ganache is that if you over whip your ganache, it's very easy for it to become grainy and really unpleasant on the palate. So what you can do is, if you happen to over whip your ganache when you're making the dessert, all you have to do is remelt the ganache, cool it down slowly, and then re-whip it again. It's great because it's kind of forgiving in that sense. Okay, so let's get started with our chocolate Swiss roll with a whipped ganache. Okay, so to get going, the first thing we want to do is butter our jelly roll pan. And then I'm going to line it with parchment paper. I just wanted to show you a little trick here when lining a jelly roll sheet. And that's to take a pair of scissors and just go right to the corners and just cut into the corners just about all the way to the bottom, and that way the edges of the parchment overlap and it's a lot easier to deal with. You don't wind up with any bubbles or anything like that. So I just use a little pair of kitchen scissors, cut the corners. Now I am also going to butter and flour the parchment. And some people don't do this, but I think it's best to, because I always find it much easier to separate the parchment that the cake was baked on when we turn it out and roll it up to cool. Okay? Okay, so you can see I have the jelly roll sheet lined with the parchment, and the parchment has been buttered and floured. The oven is preheating to 400 degrees. Okay, so what I'm going to show you how to do is clean a copper bowl. I always use copper when I'm whipping egg whites, and nothing goes into this bowl except the egg whites, and every time you use a copper bowl you have to clean the oxidation off. So the best way to do it, just take some normal table salt. I put just a little bit in the bottom, and then just add a little bit of your white vinegar to it. Then get a paper towel, and you're just going to rub the bowl. Now, if you do not own a copper bowl, it's not a problem, but you'll have to whip the egg whites in a standard bowl. But to get stabilized cells when you whip your egg whites, you have to add a little bit of acid. So you do that by using a little bit of cream of tartar. And when you see the recipe, which is at bakerspassion.com, at my website and blog, you'll see that either way it's fine. I just happen to like to really use the copper bowl. The bowl has been rinsed. Just be sure to get all of the salt out. And now I'm ready to separate my eggs. Okay, another suggestion I would make. I place my yolks into one bowl, my whites into the copper bowl, but as I separate my eggs, I use a separate bowl just in case I happen to break the yolk as I'm cracking the egg or anything, because it's really important that you get absolutely none of the egg yolk, the fat part, into the egg whites, because the egg whites won't melt. So there we go. Now I also have my pan on the stove with the butter and cream, and we're going to melt the butter and keep that mixture warm. And I've also sifted my cake flour, potato starch, cocoa, and salt 3 times. So we're ready to get moving now and put together our chocolate biscuit. And because we're separating the eggs, we're going to make a very nice meringue. With the egg whites, we're going to make a lighter foam with the egg yolks. And that process, that's how you make a biscuit, B-I-S-C-U-I-T. And this is the pastry formula that the French use to make lady fingers. They use it to make sheets, as we're going to. Usually a biscuit has no butter in it, except I find it a little bit easier to work with if we're going to roll it up and make a Swiss roll, as we are, to put a little tiny bit of butter. So we've got some butter, and I always put a dash of heavy cream or milk or half and half. I like to use the heavy cream because that just makes the sponge so much nicer. Okay, I'm finishing up the 3rd sifting of my dry ingredients, and now we're ready to begin mounting the egg foams.